Hello and welcome to the Friday, November 13th edition of the TV on Basketball podcast with your host, TV. We're back again with another collab podcast. And if you've been a long-time listener, you'll remember my guests. We have Joe from Critical Condition Sports. And in this episode, it's going to be kind of weirdly edited. In the first half, we're going to be talking about his new podcast and stuff like that. And in the second half, we're going to be talking about the new CBA. We recorded on different days because of when the CBA is released, so it's going to be different editings, but it was still a really good episode. And there's going to be the first of 3 episodes we have with him next week because it's going to be heavy packed. We're going to have 3 episodes released, one on Monday, which will be my mock draft, Wednesday, which will be the Western off-season predictions, Friday, which will be the Eastern off-season, I say predictions, but it's just more like the one move we believe each team should make. And yeah, it's gonna be a very podcast heavy just week, and I'm just really excited to get all these out to you. If you want to follow Joe, follow him at Critical Condition Sports on Instagram, and all of his links to his YouTube, his podcast, all his social medias will also be in my description. I need to show him some love. Thank you guys for all your support, and I hope you really do enjoy this podcast. Take it easy, guys, and let's get into my past me. Let's talk to my past me. Let's go. Welcome back to another collab podcast. And I'm gonna have a new guest. This is kind of a new old guest. He's definitely been on the channel before, but this is his first time being on the new season. We're gonna welcome Critical Condition Sports, Mr. Joe. How's it going, my guy?
How's it going, TV?
Going good, man. How are you doing?
Been good, man. It's been a while, man. It's awesome to be back, man. Very excited, man. I'm very excited to see the changes that you've made, man. Love the new logo, man. It's sick.
Yeah. Oh, shout out to my friend's sister Riley, who designed that for me. It's awesome, really good. Also, shout out to Gega for the new intro music. It's actually been super awesome. The new season has been going great. If you guys have watched the last few podcasts I've done, I've talked with the sports expert YT. Last week I was talking with the Daily Dribble, some awesome guests to have on the podcast. I suggest you check that out. But today we have Joe on. We're going to talk about his new podcast that he released, which is awesome. We're going to get into that later. And we're also going to talk about kind of the one offseason move we believe each team should go do this offseason. We're going to start off with the West. We're going to divide this up into two episodes. We're going to talk about the West today. We're going to talk about the East next Friday. So lots of good content for you over the next few weeks. And I'm just really excited to talk some NBA hoops.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So yeah, let's just get into this podcast right away. Like I said, since the last time Joe came on, he has had his own podcast of his own. But before we get into that, we have to congratulate my guy. He just reached 100 subscribers on YouTube. That's absolutely awesome. I'll have his links down to the bio, in my bio if you want to support him. Hey man, how does it feel to have 100 subscribers on YouTube right now?
It feels great, man. It's a long journey, man. I guess when I started YouTube, my first goal was to hit 100 subs. So we just finally hit it, man. It's been a lot of grinding. It's been a lot of fun. Met some great people, through that journey. You're one of those great people, man.
Yeah.
Through that journey. And, I'm real thankful for that more than anything. Appreciate all the supporters. Yeah. And on to the next one, man. 200 is the next goal. So, we'll slowly build off that.
Yeah, for sure. You just have to keep taking that next step. You know how it is. The grind is always going to be long and tedious, but when the stuff starts coming together, it's really awesome. And you've been having awesome great content and stuff like that on your channel, especially with the NFL season going on. What are some content that you can that viewers should expect if they're coming over to your channel?
So lately, I've been doing a lot of Super Bowl countdowns. As we're building up, the NFL season is building up to the Super Bowl in February. I'm just giving everybody my takes on, some of the best Super Bowl moments, some of the best Super Bowl underdogs that have come out. I'm actually releasing a video either today or tomorrow on the top 5 Super Bowl clutch performers. So I'm doing a lot of Super Bowl countdowns right now, and I'm doing a lot of rankings as well. And I'm touching on daily subjects. I released a video. The last video that I released was, why the Dallas Cowboys should trade Dak Prescott. So, it's an interesting topic. If you want to get on the Critical Condition Sports YouTube page to check it out.
Yeah, for sure. And as a Cowboys fan, I mean, this season has been an absolute disaster. So there's always to be honest, we're just looking towards the off season at this point. And Joe has been covering that very well. So if you're a Cowboys fan as well, check out his channel. He does a lot of great content over there. But but you also started a podcast, like I mentioned off the top. Um, how are you feeling about the podcast scene right now? Like, how are you liking like creating podcasts and stuff?
I'm enjoying the podcast industry. It's very different from YouTube.
Yeah,
It is very different from YouTube. I normally I separate content, so
yeah,
when it comes to YouTube, I, give different takes and just good little side videos. And on the podcast, obviously I go in more in depth with, football analysis. And, I try to bring on a daily guest, not a daily guest, but a weekly guest. And I pretty much, I'll do a podcast where I give you all my analytics and
yeah,
everything that I'm covering with football. But on the, guest portion of it, it's really just me interviewing and me talking with somebody that's doing something in the sports industry, and really just letting their story be heard, and just
yeah.
giving people, I guess, a different take and different kinds of athletes' lives in whatever jobs they're doing.
Yeah, for sure. Like you said, I mean, you're doing a great job like doing like just like separate content, like you can have like a good taste of like your content on YouTube, but you can also have like, the type of interviews that you do, like which you're doing an absolute fantastic job with right now, doing on your podcast as well. But what do you think has been like the biggest difference, like taking like the like between the podcast scene and the YouTube scene? Like what has been like the biggest difference that you have noticed?
Different kinds of preparation. With the YouTube feed, obviously you have to. It's video.
Yeah,
It's all video. So obviously you got to make sure, your lighting is on point.
yeah,
You got to watch, I guess for the camera that you have, man, quality,
yeah,
video quality is very important. Obviously you don't want to scrubby feed. Some of the software that you're using is obviously very different than from some of the podcast software that
yeah,
you're using with the pod. Don't really have to really worry so much about what the camera you're using to record it. It's all about having some good audio equipment, so it kind of switches on that end. And you got to be able to really dig into your cuts if you're actually editing through the podcast. So you got to be, it's a little bit harder to do your cuts in the podcast content, in my opinion.
Oh yeah, for sure. I could definitely relate to that. Like just the editing process, like between like YouTube and like um podcasting as well. Like obviously, like you said, the lighting and stuff is definitely different. You just have like a lot of things you have to prepare for differently. Speaking of like your podcast, you've bring on some awesome guests. I know you've brought on people who have been on the Ultimate Fighter, like the
Yes.
reality show in the past. You've also talked to people just recently. I believe your last episode, you were talking with an ESPN kind of radio host, I believe, right?
Yes, I was talking to James Pledger from ESPN San Antonio Radio.
Yeah.
He's an awesome guy, man, real knowledgeable, and really definitely opened my eyes to certain aspects in the sports world, to be honest with you.
Yeah, for sure. Like you've talked to like I said, like UFC, Ultimate Fighter champion people. You've talked with like radio hosts. You even talked with people like developing apps like in order to like help
Yes,
like these like athletes like get their name known. So
yes.
out of all like the interviews have you done right now, like what is the if you had a message to like any of the viewers, like what would be the one like episode you would like recommend that they should check out if they want to like get to know like what type of podcast you have going on?
So definitely, so two episodes that I have to pick two episodes just because they're in a sense different. If you enjoy just all around football content, go and listen to episode 10 with James Pledger from ESPN San Antonio, man. Raw educational video. We talk about college football. We break down college quarterbacks, Patriots and Dallas Cowboys seasons. But if you're just a full-on Pats fan by any chance, I recommend episode number 3 with Corey Mack. Guy's
Mm,
fantastic, man. It's definitely
mm,
one of my top favorite videos or interviews that I've
yeah.
done. He's got so much energy, man. And we really give a deep breakdown in the Pats football and how Pats fans should feel because of Brady's departure and how they handled that. So
Yeah.
I mean, those would be my top two.
Yeah, and I've been on like one of Corey Mack's live streams. This guy is just a freaking ball of energy, dude. Like this guy,
Yeah, he
this
is,
guy,
man.
yeah, this guy, like honestly, like going into the love, like I can't believe like this guy like has that much energy. He's like he has such a good vibe to him and stuff like that. Like definitely, you should guys check those podcasts out. I know you're early into your podcast career, but how you like which one like if you had to give like your liking towards one more than the other between YouTube and podcasting, which one would you like say you would like that you like better?
That's hard, man. I
It's
would have
hard,
to
yeah, definitely
say
hard.
YouTube has my heart, man. That was my first
Yeah,
start, man. So, and it was definitely the most nerve-wracking because it was the very first time I like did something, or I
yeah,
put something out there more
for
than
sure.
anything. When coming into podcasting, I've already talked on camera. I've already, had, I guess people I don't know listen to my content. So I guess it's very different with podcasting. I had already gotten a feel for it. So I think YouTube was my very first love, man. I would have to say.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like me and you were like we kind of like took like the opposite like direction. Like I started off
Yeah.
podcasting just because I started with that. I listened to them like for like so many years now, and then I just transitioned to YouTube this year. So, I mean, like we both like had like took like similar approaches, but we kind of like did like in the wrong order. But either way, like yeah, you have some like awesome content for sure going on both ends. Before we get into like the basketball talk, like what are your plans going forward? Like do you like have any previews for special guests that are going to be coming on, or and like what can they
Yeah.
expect for you like on the podcast scene and also on the YouTube scene like going forward?
So on the podcast scene, I'm actually gonna have in about a couple of days, about I want to say Thursday or Friday, I'm releasing the next podcast, which is gonna be with the Not an Athlete podcast with Josh, all the
Yeah.
way from Australia. So we're gonna be doing one. It's
Yep.
very exciting. And then
Them Australians, dude. Them Australians. I had like
yeah, man. Josh
yeah,
Josh is a real knowledgeable
yeah,
guy, man. He's a
yeah,
Pats fan. I'm very excited to pick his brain. And then the following week, I'm actually gonna have Enrique Rodriguez, who is a amateur boxing fighter, and
yeah,
he's in the amateur scene. He just won this past weekend. He's 5-0. So I'm getting someone from the boxing world in the Critical Condition Sports podcast, and we're gonna just do a deep dive in boxing and MMA and all different kinds of combat sports there. As far as YouTube, I'm going to be releasing the top 5 clutch performers this week. So be on the lookout for that on the Critical Condition Sports YouTube channel. And I'm actually going to be going in and give you my power picks for this upcoming weekend's game. So be on the lookout for that.
yeah. Awesome content. Like I said, I'm gonna have all his links down in my bio. I'm gonna have his link tree where you could find him on all the platforms: Instagram, YouTube, any of the podcast networks, Twitter, all that. It will be in my description. And we're back. As you could tell, me and Joe here are in different clothes, and the reason being is we waited a whole week because we want to talk about the NBA restart and how it's going to shape up, but the CBA kept pushing back the deadline. But they finally have come to an agreement, and the CBA have finally come to an agreement that for a plan of the 2020-2021 NBA season. Just some of the notes to look at from this agreement. The salary cap will stay the same this year, $109 million. It will stay the same. The important dates are trades can start happening November 16th, NBA draft November 18th. Free agency will start November 20th with signings being enabled on the 22nd. Training camp will also start on December 1st. So this whole thing is going to be happening in the span of like 2 weeks, which is absolutely crazy. And it's still not even completed. So there might be like news as we speak right now. We are recording this on a Tuesday morning, right after the reports from that happened last night. And Joe, my man, like, what are your initial thoughts on this new agreement?
Well, I'm just finally happy that we have some clarity when it comes to the
Yeah,
NBA season. I think it's a good idea to start it on the 22nd, just to get it in there before the end of 2020. It's exciting, man. Like you said, we talked about this earlier that we're in for a ride, man. When it comes to like NBA and NBA news and all
yeah,
like the action and moves and signings and trades and
yeah,
everything, it's gonna be a crazy month leading up to it, man. We got the draft next week,
yeah.
so I mean we're in for a fun ride, man.
Yeah, and like what's really crazy is like the amount of time they have to figure out the roster. Like usually like with the off season and everything, like they would have 2-3 months to plan out their roster, get their coaches in. This all is happening in the span of 2 weeks. So it's gonna be really, really chaotic. And if you didn't think that this off season was gonna be super super exciting, I think the fact that we're restricted to these 2 weeks is gonna be very, very chaotic, and it's gonna there's gonna be a bunch of news. There's gonna be just a lot of news. So yeah, I have like those are kind of my initial thoughts. Like I could see a bunch of trades being happening over a short period of time. And not another thing I didn't mention there is there's not gonna be an All-Star game. What do you think of that idea? Like having no All-Star game?
I personally don't really care for any like all-star games, man, just in
Yeah,
general. But I feel like for the NBA, it's something different. Like no one watches the Pro Bowl in the
yeah,
NFL.
Yeah.
I think the All Star is different, man. It's kind of disappointing. I'm one of those fans that looks forward to, like, the 3-point contest, the dunk contest,
Yeah.
and all the things that they do during All Star weekend, and not having that this year is a bit of a bummer, man. To be honest with you, people do watch that.
Yeah, 100%. And although they might have the All Star game, they're definitely still going to name the All Stars just because it's like kind of written in the contract. Like there's incentive, like there's bonuses and stuff like that if you make
Yeah,
All Star teams. So they're definitely still going to have All Star teams, but there will not be
the
any
actual
games
game.
played for sure. Why did you think they like uh, December 22nd is a good day? Like, what are some of like your ideas as to like why they like want to start this early and not January or February?
I feel like they legitly wanted to have it start during, like, right before 2020 ended. That's for one.
Yeah,
Then I feel like it's a good way as far as, like, for ratings, because everyone's gonna watch the NBA tip off to
yeah,
start off December 22nd. Then 3 days later, us as basketball fans, we know Christmas Day you're gonna get
yeah,
a hell of a games too, man. And so I feel like it's and going into New Year's also you're gonna get some good games. So I feel like overall it's a I think it goes back to purposes of scheduling and the kind of occasions that rise from it. So again, we're gonna watch tip off. Then 3 days later, hey, you get all these crazy games for Christmas.
yeah,
Then the rest a week later, they're gonna make some great matches for New Year's Eve, in my
yeah,
opinion. Now,
yeah.
I like the start, but I don't like the amount of games that they're gonna be playing.
72? Why? Yeah. Why not? It feels kind of
72.
yeah. It feels kind of long to me, right? I don't
It
know.
does feel kind of long to me. I mean, you only take away 10 games, and here's the thing, TV. Like, these guys, and I was talking about this with Corey on my pod, that these guys are millionaires, man,
Yeah,
and it's a long season. I mean, to me, 72 games is still a long season, man.
yeah,
And the idea that these grown-ups, these millionaires, are going to be following protocols for 72 plus games because you're not including the playoffs there, it's a little bit ridiculous in my opinion. I feel like from anything that we've seen, a lot of people don't use logic in the
yeah,
sense where it's really hard to just confine yourself and go train and work
yeah,
for the amount of that time when you have
yeah,
all that money, in my opinion.
yeah. I mean, like, if anyone has seen LeBron James's Instagram story, like, he was looking like at ESPN, and basically the NBA offseason is going to be the shortest of any major sports league in America in history. It's literally 71 days in between the start of the new season and the NBA Finals Game 6 between the Lakers and Miami. That's extremely short. And I think the only one that even
Yeah.
competes close to that was the NHL lockout back in 2013, 2014, where it was 122 days. So, I mean, it does make sense that the players are frustrated and stuff like that. But you also have to kind of look at the other semantics. Like the Lakers, yes, they played in like October and stuff, but what about the teams like the Hawks who haven't played since March? There's like, I don't know, it's so much like different things because of the way they scheduled the bubble that not a lot. It's either you had the longest break that you've ever had, or you've had like the shortest break you've ever had, and it's kind of like it's hard to kind of like work around that. Do you think it had anything to do with the NFL ratings completely trumping the NBA finals and stuff like that? Like the reason why they wanted to like try to get back on like their normal schedule?
Not really, because I feel like if it came to that, they would have started after December when the
Really?
NFL went, or maybe even after February, after the Super Bowl. I feel like that would have been the ideal time
Oh no, no, I'm
for
not really
ratings.
talking about that. But I mean, I'm talking about like say if like the NBA, like if they did push it back to like January or February, the
Yeah,
NBA finals would be around by the time the NFL season starts, which is around maybe like I think end of August, beginning of September. The way if
yeah,
they like went there. So, but as seen in the bubble,
yeah,
like even like a NBA finals game got trumped by Thursday night football in terms of
yeah.
ratings. Like do you think like starting before so they have their own like time slot even for the NBA finals was a big reason for that? Like
I feel like it was. I feel like it was, but when it comes to going up against the NFL, I feel like there's not much you can do, man. I feel like the NFL is a world just it's an overpowering dominant brand.
yeah,
I feel like you just said it right now, man. They were losing ratings towards like Thursday night football games, and I'll tell you what, man. I mean, I'm not watching every single Thursday night game.
yeah,
I'm not watching the Jags versus the Dolphins.
yeah,
You know what I
exactly.
mean? And I think that's a scary part for them. I feel like losing to games like those in the ratings, man, is a real head scratcher.
Yeah, yeah, that's a
So
100%.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's that's something That's something I'll never understand, man. Why people would want to watch Miami versus Jacksonville over LeBron versus Jimmy.
Yeah,
Come on.
exactly. Like I don't know, it just feels like the NFL, as much as like the NBA is gaining ground in terms of ratings and like viewership, it just feels like the NFL is kind of on a whole new level, especially in like North America in terms of just viewership. And I think the NBA at least came to the realization of that and are trying to make moves necessary to kind of get the ratings back. Because as said like a few weeks ago, I mean, the difference between starting on January 17th and December 22nd is $500 million, and that kind of like leaves a lot on the table for the NBA. And I just don't think like, especially like when you're talking to the Players Association and stuff like that, they're not willing to lose that money. Money talks, and
Yes.
that's why they wanted to start basically as early as possible. From the news that you seen right now, like, is there anything that any changes, like anything you would like to see the NBA do going forward with the season?
In my opinion, I think that they should have done less games. I
Less
know
games,
money
yeah,
talks and everything like that, but I mean, here's the thing, man. We're in a pandemic.
yeah,
Games are gonna get moved back.
yeah.
For sure. If they're doing are they? They're not doing any kind of bubble, correct?
No, not bubble, no bubble.
Yeah, right. So they're going to be travel. That's a lot of travel, man. 72 games
Yeah,
is a lot. You know what I mean? I'm not. They're
yeah,
not traveling for every single game, but you cut that in half. Man, my math is so off right now.
yeah.
Like 35, like 30, 36,
36,
man.
yeah,
Like 36 games. 36 games of travel. That's a lot, man. And we're in week 9 in the NFL,
yeah,
and I mean, there's been issues, man. And there's going to be more teams traveling for the NBA. Not more players per se, but I feel like there's going to be a lot more traveling. You know what I mean? You got
yeah,
36 games to travel to. So I feel like that's going to be, something that the NBA is going to have to figure out. Obviously, I feel like they have some wiggle room in case they
yeah,
do have to, postpone or
yeah,
reschedule games. So, I mean, people shouldn't be surprised, but I feel like the NBA will figure it out, man. I feel
yeah,
like they're good at making adjustments. I feel like they are probably the best at making adjustments when it came to this pandemic.
yeah,
So I feel like on that side, I feel like we can trust Adam Silver.
yeah.
But
Uh,
again, less games would have been better.
Yeah, and I like the word you use there, trust in like the NBA. I mean, for over the past few years, I mean, they have given us no reason not to do so. They've handled this pandemic really well compared to a lot of the other leagues in America. He's handled like lots of controversy over the past few years, and the NBA
Yes.
has come out on the very good side of things. Whether it's the China situation, whether it's the Donald Sterling situation back in 2014, like the NBA has just found ways to come out the other side good. And I like, and then also the point about you like saying traveling stuff. There have also been reports over the past few weeks saying that the NBA might only have games within their conference, which is kind of like mind-boggling to me. That idea that the East teams are only going to be facing the East teams like for all 72 games, and the West teams are going to be facing the West teams just to minimize all the traveling things.
Yeah.
And it really just honestly like it feels like really weird to me. What are your thoughts on the idea of just playing games within your conference?
To be honest with you, it's disappointing to an end because we look forward to Lakers versus Warriors, man. That's a matchup I'm dying to see.
Yeah,
But ultimately, when you look at the safety and try to minimize some sort of risk, I mean, at some point, you got to minimize, do whatever you can to minimize,
yeah,
risking these players, and I feel like even though that may not be the sexiest thing, I feel
yeah,
like it's the safest thing.
yeah,
And I feel like it's a very smart way to do it, just because again, you want to limit, a team going from Philadelphia all the way to, Washington or Cali.
yeah,
It's
Cali.
cross country travel. I feel
Yeah,
like it's a good idea to try to limit those for sure.
yeah. I mean, like, sadly, we're not going to see, like a finals rematch if this is the case between like Miami or Lakers, or we're not going to see
Yeah,
like some of those great matchups and stuff like that, just because they're on opposite conferences. But
yeah,
I have to agree with you there. The safety had like, although it may benefit the East more just because they are the weaker
yeah,
conference and such. Like just safety should be the biggest thing here, and I think that Adam Silver does recognize this. And I think like he'll do what's like best for the health of their players, for the safety, and I think just basically for the general public. Because imagine like going like all the way to like across the to say Florida, where they've had like
yeah,
so many cases, like so many cases and stuff like that. Like a West team going like Portland, for example, going all the way down to Florida. Like that's just gonna be like so much travel, so much risk there, and yeah, I mean like just like a lot of like safety precautions being bent there. So Yeah, I definitely have to agree with you there. Um, the possibility of fans still is on the table for the NFL, for the NBA as well. You know this very well. In the NFL, they've actually, like, some stadiums have like 10% capacity, if
Yeah.
like around there, like, and stuff like that. Hopefully we can get a vaccine soon so we can actually get fans during in the arena during playoff time. But how is that, like, working out? Like, is there like any, like, have been there any issues like in the NFL in terms of like fans like being there and stuff like that yet?
The only time I saw an issue was week one, first game of the season with Kansas City and Houston. Somebody tested positive. Other
Okay.
than that, I've not heard any issues. A couple of friends of mine were at the Cowboy game. I want to say a couple of weeks ago, I believe, when they were playing the Cardinals,
Yeah.
and they were saying they're running it pretty tight over there. They have shields. They have like group ticketing. So if you go in with it within a group, obviously it's a limited amount of in the group. They have like a shields
Yeah.
around, like, and right in front of you,
Yeah.
and obviously they're separating everybody. I mean, it's a huge stadium, so there's enough distance there. As far as like the seating wise and issues, as far as, like, tests and everything like that, I believe there hasn't been any issues. I feel like if there were, they'd be scaling back on that.
Yeah, for sure. And it's also, and to be honest, the fact that there's, like you said, only been like one positive case like for fans throughout
Yeah,
it
then we know.
means it means there's something's going well. It's some, obviously there's been players that have been testing positive left and
Yeah.
right, but at least the fans, at least, like, they're doing their due diligence and actually, like, main, maintaining social distance. Now we're gonna kind of go into, like, kind of like some questions I have here. Like,
Yeah.
you talked about, like, last week, or like it's gonna be we're gonna talk about in the episode, like, next week. They're gonna listen how you talked about how the bubble had a lot of issues in terms of, like, there's the validity, like people's, like, there's no traveling, there's no that, like, it's not really like pure NBA basketball. There's gonna be some travel here, but they're still gonna be playing, only playing games in their conference and stuff like that. No fans. Do you think this season's championship will be flawed in any sense?
No, you can make the argument that maybe fans will make a difference later on, but
Yeah.
like I said, I feel like, with time, I think we're gonna start getting a handle on this thing. I feel like, once, if the playoffs started, when do you project the playoffs to start? What, May?
End of April, beginning of May, somewhere around there.
Okay,
Yeah.
so that gives us, 6 months,
Yeah.
roughly around 6 months.
Yeah.
I feel like they're gonna figure something out. I feel like, like the U.S. will figure something out. Maybe,
Yeah, I mean,
there's a
to be
chance.
to be fair, there has been, like, if anyone has been listening to the news yesterday, they found a vaccine which is supposedly 90% effective. So if they can get those out, who knows come May?
Exactly. So we still have a good amount of time, man. And
Yeah.
I feel like, time's gonna go by fast, but I feel like there's time to get safety nets out there, which is the most important thing, and be able to allow more fans to go to the stadium. As far as flawed, I don't think I can say that, man. And even then,
Yeah.
look, I was real critical on
Yeah.
the on your show when we recorded, when it came to Jamal Murray, or
Yeah.
when it came to some of the players, on, like, the Suns, the bubble
Yeah.
Suns.
Yeah.
But regardless, man, even playing field, they
Yeah.
straight up beat them, and
Yeah.
that's that. They performed. They showed up. I'm not
Yeah.
gonna say that they're scrubs.
Yeah.
But, this season, I definitely don't see an asterisk there, man. I
Yeah.
don't. Again, I feel like over time, I feel like we as a country will figure things out, and it'll
Yeah.
get better, and we'll get pretty close to normal basketball environment, as
Yeah.
far as, having a loud crowd and stuff. So
Yeah.
I can't say that, man. I think the only way I would say that it's gonna have an asterisk is if we don't get a handle on this
Yeah.
situation over the next
And
6 months.
yeah,
We have
especially
to
if
do a
players
bubble.
start getting it, like, left and right and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah, and we have to do a bubble, like a bubble. Which, hey, man, if that's what it takes to finish the season, and that's what it takes to guarantee safetyness, that's then by all
Yeah.
means do it, man.
Yeah.
But I feel like number one thing is safety.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that I like the point you brought there with it being in playing field and such like that. Like, at the end of the day, no matter what the situation is, the
Yeah,
great teams will always show up
yeah,
when they need to. So you
it's
could
the
talk about
population.
being a flawed championship, but let's be honest. Last season, the Lakers were expected to win, and they came out with it. It
Yeah,
wasn't like it was anything crazy about it. They just straight up beat people, and they took the championship, which is honestly rightfully theirs.
yeah,
Some other things, like, pertain to this new NBA season, like a lot of, like, news about, like, gold management over the past few years that has become increasingly popular in the NBA. Now with this type of season, like, happening, with shorting games and stuff, like shorter games and stuff like that. Do you see players, especially like, the good teams that have been like in the bubble recently, like do you see people like LeBron sitting out at the beginning of the season to help like rest up his body more?
I wouldn't blame it.
Yeah,
Excuse me. I wouldn't blame them, to be
yeah,
honest with you. I wouldn't. I mean, they played in October.
yeah,
Guys like the Hawks, like you just said, they haven't played since March. I feel like, like someone's getting screwed, obviously, regardless of like, the whole like pandemic stuff or all these with this Corona thing going on.
yeah.
But I don't blame him. I don't blame LeBron. He's going into his 18th season.
That's
I
crazy.
mean,
That's crazy,
I'm
man.
not saying he's old,
Yeah,
man,
yeah,
but you
he's
know what I
not.
mean. That body isn't as good as it was when it was 22, 23 years old.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
So I wouldn't blame it, to be honest. I know it's not the popular thing, but people like executives in the NBA have to be honest with themselves and know that this is gonna happen. And you got to have some sort of leadway, man, with these players, especially like
yeah,
the ones that played really late into the bubble.
yeah. I definitely agree with you. I mean, you saw how tired Jimmy Butler was in like that whole like playoff series, and imagine having to like only 71 games of rest and stuff like that. Like, it's a whole new type of season preparation. So I could definitely
Absolutely.
see like players from the Heat. I know Jimmy Butler wants to compete every single game, but he has to be honest with himself too. I mean, it's such a short period of time. I wouldn't blame him for sitting out a couple games. Same thing
No.
with LeBron. Same thing with Anthony Davis. Like all these guys, like even the teams in the conference finals with the Boston Celtics. I mean, they still played in like September and stuff like that. That is still a
Yeah.
short amount of time, and they're gonna have to just like they're gonna have to like um just take solace in the fact that players are gonna sit out, but at the end of the day, when it comes to playoff time, they will eventually find their footing and hopefully will be
Yeah.
there, health problems free. And as we go on like to like this next topic and like we kind of like finish off here, who do you think are like if you just look around like the landscape of the league and stuff like that, who do you consider like some of like, let's start here. Who do you think are some of the winners of this decision of making the NBA season start on December 22nd? Like, who do you think is like a winner?
A winner here are the team. I think the Golden State Warriors, man. To be straight
Yeah,
up honest with you, man.
yeah,
You're talking about a good team. They should be favored to finish off in the top four,
yeah,
depending on obviously. Let's see what they're gonna do in the draft. But rest, this was a
yeah,
good team, man. I mean, now, this was a bad team during the 2019 season, but think about this. Think about this, TV. You
yeah,
have Steph Curry, Klay
yeah,
Thompson, deadly shooters. Klay Thompson was off the entire season, and
yeah,
it was a bad season for them. Obviously,
yeah.
Curry didn't really play a lot. He had that wrist
Wrist injury, yeah,
yeah, so he didn't really play a lot. Wiggins, I feel like, is a good addition for them, and he still is getting some time to gel in there with them.
yeah,
And their season where they're going through like the rough patch, it gets cut,
yeah.
and they're resting and they're healing, man. And they haven't played since March. I mean, these guys, man, are going to be ready. You know,
There,
I feel like
yeah,
they're the ones that definitely won in this.
yeah. I mean, like we all looked at Golden State last season as kind of a gap year. I mean, they've been to the
Yeah,
finals. Correct me if I'm wrong, 4 straight years or something like that, 4 or 5
correct.
straight years, four or five
Yeah,
straight years. Yeah. And with Klay Thompson being out with injury all for all of the season, Steph missing the majority of the season, they want to get back out on that basketball court, like especially being like not playing since March. And I think like the quicker to get on and take it and to be honest, take advantage of some of these more tired teams who have been in the bubble. I think this could be a really good thing for the Golden State Warriors. And I think a lot of people like myself kind of questioning like because of the amount of competition there is in the West, like where they're going to place. You did really bring up a good point. Out of all the top Western Conference teams, they're the one who has the most rest, who has
exactly.
like the and stuff like that. So it definitely does make sense here. For me, one of the winners of this, firstly, are the fans. The fans are definitely winners here. Just based on the fact that we have games like before Christmas, we're gonna have our prototypical Christmas games. That's gonna be absolutely fantastic. And also the NBA because they have to try to generate revenue somehow, and the fact that like they had such a good relationship with the MBPAs to the point where they can actually agree on an early date. Like the fact that they have like this could have, let's be honest, this could have been a disaster. Like all these negotiations and stuff like that. This could have been an absolute disaster.
Yeah,
Like, oh, the players could be like, oh, we want to play this date, this date, this date. And the NBA is like, no, we need to like make it now, or else like you guys are not getting your money and stuff like that. It could have been super duper messy, but
yeah,
everyone was very complied with it. And yes, like you said, I mean, some people are going to get screwed over no matter what.
Yes.
That's the reality of the pandemic. That's the reality of this whole situation. But the fact that they were able to come to an agreement on stuff, really, really good over there. What do you think? Like, and as we speak about losers, who do you think are the biggest losers coming out of this like whole decision?
I feel like the Lakers, man, believe it or not, man. I feel
Yeah,
like, for accomplishing what they accomplished, first of all, I mean, you don't get to really enjoy it as much.
yeah,
It's a shortened off season. They're older.
yeah,
Davis is older, and he's had a history of injuries. Now, that wasn't the case this past season, but when you get older, you don't have a lot of time to repair. It's like what we're seeing in the NFL, man. When you don't have that proper preparation and you're older, you're susceptible to injury.
yeah,
So I think that's a concern. That's a concern for any team that has got some veteran players and that really drug this thing out like in the bubble. I'm only saying the Lakers because they played in the last game of the season.
yeah,
Even though Miami also played late into the season, they have a lot of young pieces. I feel like
yeah.
the Lakers are just a lot of vets, man.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. LeBron has been a very common theme in this podcast. I mean, like going into his
Yeah,
18th season, like, and he's going to need his rest, and this is like not going. Like, I mean, it's very possible he's going to sit out the first few weeks of the season, but it's
yeah,
still definitely going to be a loss for the Lakers. Another team I see kind of as a loser here, and I think it's kind of under the radar, is kind of the Philadelphia 76ers. And
okay,
like my really explanation for this is that with Daryl Morey coming in, with Doc Rivers coming in, they want to make a lot of trades and they don't have a lot of time to make those trades and also like assimilate their system. I mean, you have the trades being able to be done on November 16th, but they only have a month to make moves. And also, like, if they do make trades, I mean, bring these guys into their system. Like, like teams like the 76ers, who are going to have major turnover in the season, or at least they hope to, are going to have very little time to, one, draft their players, sign their players, trade their players. And the fact that they have to do this in a span of like what 2 weeks and then start training camp right after. It's going to be tough for those type of teams who like want to have major turnover. I actually was thinking about this earlier, and I think this idea came to me while listening to another podcast. Is it very possible that NBA teams are just going to kind of stay with their rosters right now and try not to make too many changes just because the season is starting in 3 weeks?
it would be ideal unless you can obviously land a vet or a splashy free agent. But even then, I mean, I don't think the free agent class is going to be good this season. It makes a lot of sense, man. It makes a lot of sense just because there's not a lot of things to tweak. I feel like you can make adjustments while in the season's going on, and
Yeah,
obviously you don't want to have too many chemistry issues as you're
yeah,
starting. But ultimately you got to do what you got to do.
yeah, exactly. I definitely agree with you there. It's it's such a short amount of time. Like usually teams would want to like make trades as early into the offseason just so they can help bring their guys in, build the chemistry, like and stuff like that. But they don't have that luxury this year, so they're gonna. I definitely do see a lot of teams just staying put and say, look, this season is gonna be crazy anyway. We'll
Yeah.
just live with the craziness and try and like regroup next year. I could definitely see that happening. As we close this out, um, as an NBA fan, Joe, like we're both NBA fans here for sure.
Yes.
What are you most excited for this upcoming season?
I'm really excited to see the Golden State Warriors for one.
Yeah,
I'm not a fan of the Golden State Warriors, but I can definitely appreciate
yeah,
greatness. They're great.
yeah,
Steph Curry is amazing to watch. They're fun to watch. I'm very excited to see that. From the East, man, I'm very excited to see what kind of moves the Sixers are going to do.
yeah,
We talked about this. Daryl Morey there. Uh, can they get James Harden? Who knows?
yeah,
That's going to be a big one for me.
mhm,
And whatever it is, things got to change in Philadelphia. It
yeah,
got to change. Obviously, it hasn't worked out. And Simmons and Embiid, I feel like there needs to be a decision on what's going to happen. That's just my opinion, and I want to see how Doc's gonna be able to control this. A lot of things to be excited for. Clippers,
yeah,
what's gonna happen with Paul George? In my opinion, is he
yeah,
gonna, the real Paul George isn't gonna show up until the playoffs comes around. You'll see.
yeah.
But I'm very excited to see the chemistry on this team, man.
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, a constant theme that you like talked about there is like just the fact that everyone's going to be healthy again, which is absolutely fantastic. The
Yeah,
Golden State Warriors getting back to full strength, and you didn't even mention it there. The Brooklyn Nets, Kevin
yeah,
Durant is finally back. Oh man, I'm so excited to watch Kevin
for
Durant back
sure,
up.
man.
Yeah, watching Kevin Durant again, Kyrie Irving hopefully coming back from his injury, working well. And just like the fact that we're starting fresh this new season. I mean, obviously going into last season, we knew Klay Thompson was going to miss a lot of games. We knew that Kevin Durant was going to miss it. So we were missing like just two major players in the NBA. And the fact that, correct me if I'm wrong, there's no really like significant injuries coming into this year. Like I can remember of like at least star players.
I don't.
Yeah,
I don't. I
yeah.
believe someone got hurt in the bubble. Was it Jonathan Isaac?
Jonathan Isaac, yeah, but I mean, it's nowhere near the level of a Kevin Durant.
Oh, for
Klay
sure,
Thompson.
for sure. But I mean, that's about it. That's all I can remember from.
Yeah.
No major ones, man.
Yeah, no major ones, which is like really, really good. So, I mean, it's going to be really interesting to see how these, you know, the season plays out and stuff like that. And honestly, just as NBA fans, we just cannot wait for the NBA season to kick off once again. But yeah, I think this is where we're gonna end today's episode. Thank you for coming on, Joe, to this for this episode.
Yes, sir.
Just any other things like before you sign out about your podcast going forward?
Oh yeah, so this coming week on the Critical Condition Sports podcast, it will be airing on Friday. I am gonna have Enrique Rodriguez, who's a boxer. He's an amateur boxer. He's 3-2 right now. You know, fantastic. It was a fantastic conversation. It was the first interview he's ever done. Yeah. So it's gonna be a good one. And then we'll be uploading some YouTube content over the next couple days as well. You can get that on Critical Condition Sports, and then just follow me on Instagram for the journey, man, at Critical Condition Sports.
Awesome. I'm going to have all his links down in my description so you can follow him on Instagram. Check out his YouTube channel, all his podcasts, and all that good stuff. And again, thank you so much, Joe, for coming on.
Thank you very much, TV.
Yeah. So this is where we're going to today's podcast. Thank you guys for listening. Remember to follow TV on Basketball on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram for updates on the podcast and for other content. Check out all the podcast links down in my link tree. And also, if you're watching this on YouTube, leave a subscription, drop a like, and all that good stuff. I hope you all having a fantastic day. And yeah, look out for more NBA content over the next few days, weeks for the off season. And we're gonna have you're gonna have to listen to Joe again next week as we talk about off season moves and stuff like that, which is gonna be which was a great conversation. And yeah, there's gonna be just some really good NBA content going forward as the season approaches. But yeah, I hope you guys all have a fantastic day. Take it easy, guys. Peace.